What's up? Did you ever feel unsafe? Do you feel like the sky might fall at any moment? But perhaps it's just an egg. I think it was an acorn. Anyway, do you ever worry about your safety? Do you feel stressed? Well, today in your luck, we're going to talk about how to feel safe. This is the Existential Stoic podcast. I'm Danny. I'm here with Randy. What's up, Randy?
Yo, Danny.
So, have you ever felt unsafe?
Dude, surprisingly I do. And it's crazy because like I'm a pretty big guy, both in height but also in stature. And so like when this comes up, especially girls will be like, "How could you possibly feel so safe? You're like gigantic. Who could mess with you?" And it's like, yeah, still comes up. And actually like just recently over the past day or so, I was just like completely triggered by it and but or triggered by something. And it took me a while to realize that this was the reason why.
Yeah, it's funny too how that can be like, it can throw off everything so much. And especially if you don't realize like that it's that you just feel unsafe. Like, because you get that, it's like an anxiety almost, at least for me. Like, I usually experience it kind of like an anxiety, but like a lot of times I'll miss sort of identify what the cause is. Yeah, it's very
Dude,
easy
because
to
it's
feel unsafe.
sneaky. It's like you
Yeah,
just feel not right. And
yeah.
yeah. For
Well, I
me, it
think
was like
too.
I just need to get out of here. That was what was going on in my mind. I was like, I need to get out of here. And I didn't even really fully consciously understand why.
Yeah, I think that happens a lot too when you're in like a situation that feels like maybe, sketchy or triggered by something or whatever. But you can also feel unsafe just because like, you don't feel like you have security. Like maybe it's hard to meet your bills or whatever, or like you feel like things around you are falling apart. Who knows? There's so many reasons. So hopefully today we can help. We each have a few tips. I'm starting. My first one is routine. I know this sounds kind of silly, but like I do find like having a routine, at least like at least a minimal routine of like something you do each morning, something you do each night for like a few minutes, does like help you have a sense of control during your day. It helps you kind of like, you wake up, you know what you're gonna do for the next like say like half hour or hour, and it kind of gets you moving. And I think that does really help, at least with me, especially with like the the feelings of unsafe that come with like you know not having control in the world, or like not feeling like you're going to make your next payment on something or whatever. Like that routine really helps kind of give that normalcy and help me feel better.
Yeah, that's a great one. Like I noticed when I started implementing a routine or daily structure in my day, particularly like at the beginning and the end of the day, the wild waves of life kind of mellowed out a little bit. They weren't so big to the good
Yeah,
and so big to the bad. They were kind of just like, okay, I can do this a bit more.
yeah, it
Yeah.
does help. It's weird, like levels that those waves down a little bit. Yeah.
hmm Yeah. So my first one for how to feel safe is recognize you feel unsafe. So like this probably took me a full 24 hours to recognize that that's what was going on. But like I literally there was something that happened that I realized today like brought up something from my childhood. And it was a situation where I felt that, like I was unjustly something happened to. I went to someone who I trusted and they did nothing about it. And I felt very unsafe about it. And so like and it was kind of like the same situation that happened. And so there was
Yeah.
this teeny little child once again, instead of a
Yeah.
full grown adult human interacting with the thing. And my experience in the situation was like, I need to get out of here. Like I don't care. And it was like super inconvenient to leave at the time too, because I paid some money to do stuff and like,
Yeah.
traveled and all this stuff. And so it was just uh it took a while, but I would say one of the first steps is just realize that you feel unsafe, that that's what's going on.
You can't deal with anything unless you realize what it is, first of all. You have to identify it. And like usually acknowledging something does take a lot of its power away. Like once you acknowledge like what it is and it's the right thing. But like I also like what you said too, because I think a lot of times that's what happens. Like it's something related to like our past or past experience. And that's like sometimes the hardest thing to identify immediately. Because you're not thinking about it. And like, it's also like something that you might not be like wholly consciously aware of all the time. And like it just comes up. Yeah, it's a pain when it happens. It's really hard. But once you identify, I think that's a really good one. It does help a lot. My second one, and this might sound a little counter to, seek out new experiences. I do think this helps a lot. Like showing yourself that like you can do things that are out of your norm, that it's okay, that things go well can be really helpful for feelings of safety. Like just like kind of broadening your experience and realizing like, hey, I can do that. There's no problem doing that. Like, I can travel or I can go do these things that I normally wouldn't do, and I can still survive and make it through it. it might not be pleasant if like, you're afraid of it or whatever, but like at least you can do it and then you can kind of prove it to yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Like building up that resiliency and even keeping a
Yeah.
list of it. Like I used to do that
Well, that's
every
good for you
once in a
too.
while, was
Yeah.
like in the back of my journal, I had a list of like times when I've been resilient so that whenever I was feeling not very resilient, I could just flip back there and be like, oh yeah, I did that and that and that and that and that and that and that.
I was
Yeah.
resilient at one point.
I know, right? Yeah. So my next one for how to feel safe is phone a friend. So you may not know this, but actually, when you messaged me like 12 hours ago to ask if we were going to do the episode, it was actually very, very helpful for me because I knew that we would be speaking within the next 12 hours, and it kind of helped
Oh,
me to like deal with the issue that was going on. But also, like, if you're not able to speak with someone at the time, I also was kind of thinking, like, what would you say to me in this situation? And I got some helpful advice from it too, like trying to pin down exactly what's going on, why this is why I'm feeling triggered from this. Like, yeah, so it's a very useful thing to be able to phone a friend in those moments.
I do that a lot too, though. Like, because like whether it's like phoning directly or like just like imagining what you would say, because I think like that's a helpful like way to shift your frame of mind, so you're not like because like we always like are so harsh on ourselves, and I think like thinking of it in that terms makes it a lot better because usually your friends are going to say something helpful, they're going to understand the situation, and they're going to they know what to do, and it kind of takes you also out of the moment to kind of help you kind of see it more like from an outsider's perspective, which is really beneficial.
And that's another thing that was really helpful because like during the situation, I was feeling terrible, and what was going through my mind is what's wrong with me? Why is this
Yeah.
happening again? Can't I do anything right? And then I was like, hang on, what would Danny say? Oh, he'd be pretty compassionate. Okay, why don't I try
Yeah.
that on for size?
Well, that's what's funny though. Yeah, we always attack ourselves, right? Like you think it's your problem when really like, who knows what it could be. That's a good one though.
Mhm.
My last one is explore the root of like whatever you're afraid of. And this is hard, but like identifying it's part of it, obviously, but then like journal. I think journaling is like this is one of the best things you can do, journaling. It's just like ask yourself, like, why was I afraid? Why did that happen? What caused it? Kind of go through like those why questions until you get to the bottom of it, which can take a while. It can be hard. It can bring stuff up. But I think once you know it, it can make you a lot better at identifying it and dealing with it in the future, which is like super helpful. And you also learn about yourself, which is good too. Self-knowledge doesn't hurt.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no better way to work through it than like pencil and paper.
Yeah, makes it
Absolutely.
way easier to get through all those problems.
Yeah. So my last one for how to feel safe is hug your inner child. So this is something. So like I mentioned in the beginning, this was something I was triggered because of an event that happened in my childhood when I didn't have all the resources and physical capabilities and everything that I have now and life experiences. And and I react to that situation exactly like that child. I'm living back in that time period. So like after I realized that was what was going on, I like imagined myself now, my physical capabilities, my mental capabilities, everything available, all my resources. How would I go handle those situations? And how would I deal with those people who were not there for me or who treated me this way now? And it was good because
Yeah.
I get to be like the protector of myself who is treated very harshly as a child, and it feels great. And then at the end you can hug your inner child,
Yeah.
give them the loving they want.
I like that one. That's a good one too, because it's like, it is funny. Like I remember reading something before that were saying like, like people usually have this experience when like say they haven't seen like a friend from high school for like, I don't know, a couple decades, and then they see them. And like we all have that experience of kind of reverting back to that time. Like because that's like a similar, it happens to everybody. And I think this case of like when you're afraid of something like that, it's like reverting back to that time. You do actually become yourself then rather than now. And I think that's a really good idea. It's like, you know, telling yourself, like, no, this is different though, because like I am an adult now and like, things have changed and I have all these things. So like, don't worry, guy. I can do that,
Hmm.
that kind of thing. I like that. That's a good
Yeah.
one. So there
Hmm.
you have it. Hopefully I'll help you guys, work these problems if you do feel unsafe at times. If you enjoyed the episode, please like, share, subscribe. It helps us out a lot. Even leave a review on Apple Podcasts. That would be great. Check us out on YouTube or wherever you get podcasts. We'll be back later this week with a full length episode. Until then, later.
Later, Danny.